Whether you're buying a new or used guitar or picking up an old guitar for the first time in a long time, you'll want to consider setting up the guitar to fit your playing needs. So the first thing I usually do is you listen to the customer and find out what playing style they have, whether they're a fingerstyle player or a flat picker or a little bit of both. Because guitars should be adjusted for those style of play. And also you look at the guitar. String gauge, neck straightness, action at the nut, at the saddle, how much saddle there is. So you sort of do all of those things prior to working on a guitar. The first thing I look for on any guitar is the neck and the stability of the neck. That affects action in both ways. If the neck is convex, the action will sometimes feel a little too low. If the neck is concave, then the action can feel really spongy. And as long as it has a truss rod, you can adjust those things. If it's convex, that means the neck is bowed back and you have to loosen the truss rod to do that. And you can usually, again, tell that by putting your finger here, tapping. If your string is on top of the fret, that means you need a little bit of relief. And by loosening the truss rod, it'll give you a little relief in that neck and give you a better action situation. So if it's concave, that means there's too much relief in the neck and you want to tighten the truss rod. And again, you can do that from here. If there's way too much movement from the string to the top of the fret, you want to tighten the truss rod to make sure that you're relieving some of that height. For the most part, tightening a truss rod, usually a quarter turn, but whether it's left or right, whether you're loosening it or tightening it, that usually works pretty well. And for the average person, I would say a quarter turn, then look, quarter turn, then look, a quarter turn, and then look. That's what I would do. You don't want to sit there and crank it 5 times and have it snap on you. Once a neck is straight on the guitar, then the next thing I'll look at is the saddle and the saddle height. If you're buying a guitar, make sure you have enough saddle on the guitar. You never want to buy a guitar where the action is really great, but there's no saddle to adjust, because you're giving yourself nowhere to go. You know, if something happens, you have no option. You can always raise it, but you can never lower it without removing the neck and resetting the neck. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. Always measure your action with your finger at the first fret. If the nut's too high, you can adjust that later. It doesn't affect the saddle height at all or buzz at all. It just affects more playability. I've taken a look at the neck. The neck is straight, so I want to measure the action, and if the action is a little too high, which I think it is, we want to bring the saddle down a little bit to make sure that the action is more adjustable for a fingerstyle player, which is more in the 2 to 5/64 range. So I'm about at 3.5 on the bass side. Again, I'm holding down the first fret, and I'm about 3 on the treble side. So again, if I bring the saddle down 2/32, it'll bring the entire action down 1/32 on both sides. Since this is an intonated saddle, I'll take it down from the bottom first. So I've taken the tension off the strings. Now I want to remove the pegs and the strings and bring the saddle out and do some removal of the bottom part of the saddle. Put those aside, pull this out, and again we're going to remove 2/32 from the bottom side of the saddle and then reinsert it and then readjust the action. So after we've done the adjustment on the saddle, let's check the height of the strings to see if we've adjusted the strings properly. 5/64 on the bass side and 4/64 on the treble side. So it's right where we want it to. By removing 2/32 on the saddle, we brought the saddle down 1/32 on both sides. Once that's set, again at the player's action, player's comfort level, then again you'll look at the nut height, whether it's too low or too high, and do any adjustments there as well with the proper gauge nut file. This is a set of light gauge, so it's usually a 12 through 53 or 54. So we know that this is usually around 42 string. So if you have your proper nut files, I have one that says 42. We're going to just put our fingers like this. We're not going to detune it, we're just going to lift it. Just like that. It's going to pop out of the nut. We're going to bring it over, and we're going to put it there. And we're going to do, notice I'm filing in the back first. I'm filing in the back first. I'm not hitting the front edge of the nut, because you want to make sure that your nut slot is angled so that you're coming off the very front edge of the nut. So I'm going to file that a little bit, not much. I'm going to put the spring back. I'm going to feel it. It's still a little high. Again, measure twice, cut once. A little more pressure. It's feeling a little better. Once you've gotten your guitar set up properly the way you want it, so ways of keeping it that way. Change your strings every now and then. I get people that bring in guitars, the strings are out of tune, they don't play in tune, and they bring it to me and it's like, well, when's the last time you changed your strings? About 2 years ago. That really doesn't work. I always recommend that people store their guitars in their cases. I think that's the safe place for them. They don't get damaged that way. You can also store them with some humidity situations to keep them properly humidified. When a guitar is dehumidified, you can actually see that the top will sink down. That if you put a straight edge on this edge and this edge, there's no roll at all at the top at all. That's a critical thing. There should be a certain amount of roll at the top where the bridge is, and it should be consistent with the top. So that's a really critical thing that most people can do just with a straight edge to make sure that their guitar is humidified properly. So again, you're really in a situation where you really want to take care of your guitar, because if you don't, no one else is going to do it. You really need to take care of it for yourself.